When did Moses begin the retelling of the law? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we begin our verse-by-verse study of the book of Deuteronomy on Walking Through the Bible.
His word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to Deuteronomy chapter 1. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 8. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Deuteronomy chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. These are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel on this side of the Jordan in the wilderness, in the plains opposite Suph, between Paran, Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dissahab. It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. Now it came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moses spoke to the children of Israel according to all that the Lord had given him as commandments to them, after he had killed Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who dwelt in Ashtaroth in Edrei. On this side of the Jordan, in the land of Moab, Moses began to explain this law, saying, The Lord our God spoke to us in Horeb, saying, You have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and take your journey, and go to the mountains of the Amorites, to all the neighboring places in the plain, in the mountains and in the lowland, in the south and on the seacoast, to the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them and their descendants after them. When we ended our study of Numbers, we had Israel in the plains of Moab across from Jericho, as the map on the screen indicates. This map is found on Bible.ca and is used with permission. Israel had traveled from Mount Sinai, which we place in the modern-day Saudi Arabia, and make several stops along the way before arriving at Kadesh Barnea. If you look closely on our map, we don't place Kadesh where most Bible maps place it, with most Bible maps placing it in the southern Negev. We place it on the east side of the Jordan River near Edom. In our study of Numbers, we explained that we did this because if Kadesh was in the southern Negev, as is supposed, then it would be inside the promised land of Canaan, and thus would contradict scriptures which says that Kadesh was outside of Canaan, and later Israel's borders. So Kadesh should be placed on the east side of the Jordan River, near Petra. Verse 2 of Deuteronomy 1 says that from Horeb, Mount Sinai, to Kadesh, by way of Mount Seir, is an 11 days' journey. This would represent a normal journey, for we know from Numbers 10 to 12 that Israel spent considerably longer getting to Kadesh. Once in Kadesh, Moses sent out spies to spy out the land of Canaan and bring back a report. 10 of the 12 spies brought back a bad report and told the Israelites not to take Canaan but to return to Egypt. God punished the nation with 40 years of wilderness wandering until the rebellious generation had died out. By the time of Deuteronomy 1, that has happened. Verse 3 said that Moses' words in chapter 1 came in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month. I'd like you to keep this number in mind, for when we get to chapter 2, we're going to be presented with a slightly different number and need to understand what this 40th year represented. If we were using a Gregorian calendar, we would say that this is November 1st. However, the Jewish year began in the month of Abib, the month of Nisan in the New Testament, the month of Passover. Abib corresponds to our late March, early April, so this wasn't November. The 11th month of the Hebrew calendar is known as Shevat and corresponds to our late January, early February. So what we can say is that winter is coming to an end, and the temperatures are about to begin warming up again, though it doesn't get particularly cold by Canadian standards in that region. It does get considerably cooler than in the summer there. By the time that Moses speaks these words, the Israelites had already defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan. We read of that in Numbers 21 to 26, and 33 to 35, which said, Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, Let me pass through this land. We will not turn aside into the fields or vineyards. We will not drink water from the wells. We will go by the way of King's Highway until we have passed through your territory. But Sihon would not allow Israel to pass through his territory. So Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel in the wilderness, and he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. Then Israel defeated him with the edge of the sword, and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, as far as the people of Ammon, for the border of the people of Ammon was fortified. So Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon and in all its villages. For Heshbon was a city of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab, and had taken all his land from his hand as far as the Arnon. And skipping down to verse 33, we read, "And they turned and went up by the way of Bashan. So Og, king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. Then the Lord said to Moses, Do not fear him, for I have delivered him into your hand, with all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon. So they defeated him, his sons, and all his people, until there was no survivor left him, and they took possession of his land." The land here was on the east side of the Jordan River, land that would be given to Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Israel, though, hadn't taken anything west of the Jordan, which is why they were waiting in the plains of Moab. It is here, just before Moses dies, that he is repeating the law to them, by first reiterating the land that they were to possess, the land promised to Abraham, which is the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon as far as the Euphrates. It is here that some Bible students get confused, for from Joshua we don't find Israel possessing land this far north. But there will be reasons for that, ones that we will discuss, the Lord willing, when we get to those future studies. For now, what we need to know is that this great expanse of land was what was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We'll continue with this, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 9 to 18, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.